Have you ever felt like you were being watched? Not just a passing glance, but a deep, unsettling feeling that someone or something was following your every move. This is the story of a hiker who experienced exactly that. It's a story that still haunts me to this day, and one that I'll never forget. Let's call him Alex. Alex was an experienced hiker. He'd spent years exploring trails, from dense forest to rugged mountain paths. But this time, he decided to venture into a remote area known as Blackwood Ridge. It was a place few people visited, with trails that twisted deep into the woods, far from any signs of civilization. The kind of place where you could walk for hours and not see another soul, with trails that twisted deep into the woods, far from any signs of civilization. The kind of place where you could walk for hours and not see another soul. It was a crisp autumn morning when Alex set out. The air was cool, the leaves crunching under his boots as he made his way down the trail. He had his backpack stocked with supplies, a map, and a sense of adventure. But as the hours passed, something felt... At first, it was subtle, a rustling in the bushes behind him, the faint sound of footsteps just out of sync with his own. Alex stopped and turned around, but there was nothing there. Just the trees, swaying gently in the wind. He shook it off, chalking it up to his imagination. But the feeling didn't go away. As Alex ventured deeper into the woods, the signs became harder to ignore. The rustling grew louder, closer. He could have sworn he heard whispers faint, unintelligible murmurs carried on the wind. He stopped again, his heart pounding. "Hello?" he called out. No response, just silence. Then he saw it, a shadow moving between the trees. It was quick, almost imperceptible, but it was there. Alex froze, his breath catching in his throat. He told himself it was just an animala deer, maybe. But deep down, he knew better. Animals don't move like that. He picked up his pace, trying to shake the feeling of dread that was settling over him. But the footsteps followed, always just out of sight, always just a little too close. Alex's mind raced. Was someone following him, or was it something else? By late afternoon, Alex was desperate to get out of the woods. He checked his map, but the trails seemed to twist and turn in ways that didn't make sense. It was as if the forest itself was working against him. That's when he saw it again, the shadow. This time, it was closer, close enough to make out a figure. Tall, thin, and unnaturally still, it stood between the trees, watching him. Alex's blood ran cold. He wanted to run, but his legs felt like lead. "Who are you?" he shouted, his voice trembling. The figure didn't respond. It just stood there, its head tilted slightly as if studying him. And then it moved. Not toward him, but parallel to the trail, keeping pace with him as he walked. Alex's heart was pounding now. He broke into a run, crashing through the underbrush, not caring about the branches scratching his face or the rocks tripping him up. He just needed to get away. But no matter how fast he ran, the figure was always there, just at the edge of his vision. Finally, after what felt like hours, Alex burst out of the woods and onto a dirt road. He collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. When he looked back, the figure was gone, but the feeling of being watched wasn't. He flagged down a passing car and begged for a ride back to town. The driver, an older man, took one look at Alex's pale, sweaty face and didn't ask questions. As they drove away, Alex kept his eyes on the woods, half expecting to see the figure emerge, but it never did. Back in town, Alex reported what had happened to the local authorities. They searched the area but found nothing, no footprints, no signs of anyone living in the woods. They told him it was probably just his imagination, maybe a trick of the light, but Alex knew better. To this day, he refuses to go back to Blackwood Ridge. He still has nightmares about the figure, about the way it watched him, about the whispers he couldn't quite make out. And sometimes when he's alone at night, he swears he can hear those footsteps again, just outside his window. Was it a person, a spirit, or something else entirely? Alex doesn't know. And maybe that's the most terrifying part, not knowing. Because whatever it was, it's still out there, watching, waiting. So the next time you're out in the woods and you hear footsteps behind you or see a shadow moving between the trees, don't ignore it, because you never know who or what might be watching.